Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to my channel. Today we'll be taking a look at the 2024 Tata Steel Chess India. Now this tournament is actually including Rapid and Blitz, it's a Rapid and Blitz event featuring one of some of the world's strongest players. Now there are 10 players in the men's section. Magnus, Carlsen, Norbert Abdusattorov, Wesley So, and many more. You see, there is the 5-time world champion Magnus Carlsen, but also the junior players like Norbert Abdusattorov, Praggnanandhaa, and yeah. So it's the top, the players at the very, very top against these junior players as well. Now, the schedule or the format, the rapid portion of the Tata Steel Chess India features a 10-player single round robin, which means that you'll be they will play against each other one time. The time control is 25 minutes for the entire game with a 10-second increment per move. There's first of all the rapid section, the men's and women's rapid section, and then the blitz. The blitz will be 3 plus 2 in that, and they're all round robin, single round robin. Now this is the price. The Tata Steel Chess India features a $41,500 prize fund, with $24,000 going to the rapid section. Now this is the location. The Tata Steel Chess India will take place at the I'm not actually sure how to pronounce this, but it's in India. All right. This is the brief information about this tournament, and now let's get into this article pretty fast. It has already started actually for about 3 rounds, the time I'm recording this video. Right now, Abdusattorov leads Carlsen, So, Narayana as Tata Steel Chess India begins. And Norbert is the sole leader of the 2024 Tata Steel Chess India Open Rapid after beating grandmasters Vincent Kimir and Praggnanandhaa Rameshbabu. They won to score 2.5 out of 3 in Kolkata. And grandmasters Magnus Carlsen, Wesley So, and Narayana are just half a point behind. And then there's the information about the women's section, but that is not what we'll be focusing on today. And these are some brief information that you guys can actually take a look at later. But today, right now, we'll just read to here that you just need to know that Abdusattorov is the sole leader right now, but still Carlsen and many others are following behind. Anyways, today we'll be taking a look at this game played in round 1. It is the 5-time world champion Magnus Carlsen against one of India's strongest junior players, Praggnanandhaa Rameshbabu. Now this game was actually really interesting. And you should also these two players, Magnus and Pragg, they have played against each other in many tournaments, top tournaments, and Pragg is actually having a really nice result against Magnus. Of course, Magnus needs to be careful in this game. I mean, Pragg is also a very serious opponent. Yeah. So, anyways, let's get into this game. Magnus is white and he starts with c4, the English opening. Well, not as solid as d4 in some of the lines, but c4 is also related to the queen's pawn opening. Knight f6 and knight f3, e6, g3. Now, actually, Magnus is sort of putting up a Catalan structure as white. And actually, this is not that common, but by just looking at the first few moves, you can see that both sides, they are gonna play serious chess in this game. They're not going for an immediate draw. They are just doing what they need to do. In the game, bishop g2 was played, free and cheatering the bishop, d4. Also, you can actually play d takes c4, which is the other exchange variation here. And after d takes c4, white here has basically 3 main options. Queen a4, knight a3, and also queen c2. Like all of these options are like the idea of these options are to win back the c4 pawn, but of course the most straightforward option is to go queen a4, and after, for example, like knight bd7, you just like take back the pawn and it's a game on. Alright, but however in the game, instead of playing d takes c4, Pragg instead played d4. I think this is all home preparation. I mean, both sides are like playing pretty fast, and yeah, d3 was played. And in the game, bishop b4 check, bishop d2 block, and a5. This position or this line may seem like a little bit unfamiliar to some of you guys. This is called the Neo-Catalan defense, and it's not not that common. I mean, the lines that these two players are playing is perfectly fine, but it's kind of like pretty sharp variation. a5 was played, and then in the game, short castle. It's worth noting that here for white, it's not good to take on b4 immediately, because after a takes b4, you'll open up this A file for black's rook, and your pieces are like hard to develop, especially the knight. It can only go to d2, and also there are like b3 threats coming up. The rook is putting a lot of pressure on the A file, so white of course needs to be careful about that. And like you're not in a hurry, like you're not in a must situation to take, then you just go like you just develop your pieces first, get your king to safety, and in the game knight d6 was played. In your Magnus, he actually took on b4. Now, this is not the best option, again, because I've just demonstrated that if you take on b4, black will take with the pawn, that's for sure, and open up the a file, creating a lot of counterplay for black on the queen side. And here, what I should have done is actually, again, there are many possibilities. e3 is one. Like queen a4 is also a possibility, as well as knight a3. Because in this position, your knight can now no longer develop to c3 or d2 because they're all unavailable. Then the only square is knight a3. Now, you might be afraid of bishop takes a3 and b takes a3 because you might say, wait, I have a double pawn here. And I mean, the pawn structure is of course not beautiful, but it's of course not bad. Because first of all, it's hard for black to really attack the pawn since there's an a5 pawn in front of the rook. And second of all, these pawns are actually have great usages, like controlling these very important squares, not allowing black's knight to get into the position that easily. So of course, knight a3 is possible to get the knight to c2. That is another option. You can also go queen a4, but bishop b4 is actually not a very ideal move, but it was played in the game by Magnus. Bishop b4, and of course a takes b4. Taking with the knight will have no usage at all. White can just go a3, and you have to get your knight back. So there's no reason. In the game, a takes b4 was played, opening up the a file, and the reason that I'm saying that this is not an ideal plan for white to take on b4 is because, again, the a file is open, the a2 pawn and the a1 rook are somehow all under pressure by the a8 rook, and there's always some b3 threats going on, and even if black just puts all the pieces here and just wait for white to make moves, white is still having some trouble in developing its pieces. In the game, a3 was played. I guess this is the follow-up plan by Magnus to play bishop b4, and short castle was played. Now, of course, you cannot take on b4 because your rook is still under the pin, and white here just simply develops with knight bd2, and in the game, Pragg played b takes a3. Because you can no longer prevent a takes b4 from happening because this rook is now well being defended by the queen. Other options are probably for you to defend the b4 pawn with your queen, but this is no longer ideal because after a takes b4, rook takes a1, queen takes a1, and queen b4. Even though black's pieces may seem slightly more active than white's pieces are, but that is just in something on the surface. Because now after queen a3, trading off the queens, you see that suddenly this c8 bishop in black's territory is really hard for to develop. Okay, maybe there's e5 to open up the diagonal for the bishop, but there's rook b1 now. preventing the bishop from coming out because it is attacking the b7 pawn right now. And naturally, white can start to create counterplay with c5, a4, a5, and to maneuver the knights and the bishop as well. In the game, that is why here b takes a3 was played immediately, and asking Magnus, okay, are you going to take on a3? If so, are you going to take with the pawn or take with the rook? And if you're not going to take, are you just going to play something like queen b3? And in the game, Magnus says, I'm not going to take on a3 and I'm going for queen b3. But of course here actually rook takes a3 is the best option, and it's all forced after b takes a3 here. Black can now go e5 to fix this bishop, like to develop it, and there's actually no weaknesses in black's territory so far. And bishop f5, e4 ideas are coming. This a3 pawn is slightly a bit weak because later on there's queen e7, rook e8 ideas to attack it. White can actually just go queen c2, and this is just a normal position. Both sides can play normally. But however, in the game, queen b3 was played. Taking on a3 with a pawn is like no big difference than rook a3, except that you're now like this is now really a weakness because queen e7, and you see the rook is putting the pressure on a3 as well as the queen, and now white needs to defend the a3 pawn, and that is a lot of work. In the game, queen b3 was played, which is also fine, better than b takes a3 at least, and rook a6 was played, very logical, threatening to go rook b6. And after rook takes a3, rook b6, an excellent move. Because now if you take on a3 again, then you're just kind of like wasting a move. Then why go rook a6 instead of just keeping the rook on a8 and wait for white to take? And after white takes, you then take on a3. So here, after rook a3, rook b6 was played. This was Praggnanandhaa's follow-up plan of rook a6, attacking the queen. Now material is already equalized, but black's pieces are slightly more active because there's always e5 ideas coming up, and black will have a slight advantage in the center with a bigger space. Rook b6 was played and queen c2. Queen e7, very logical, gaining more control of these dark squares on the queen side. Oops, what is that? And in the game, rook fa1 was played, gaining control of the a file, but the a file is actually a file, an open file that isn't huge in use because there's basically no pieces on the a file, and like there's no black pieces on the a file, and even if white can get the rook to a8, but there's still nothing that it can attack basically. But rook f8 was played anyways, and in the game e5 was played. Rook a8. Now this is actually just something that I've just said. Even though you can get your rook down the whole open file to this a8 square and gain control of the last rank, but it can't really attack anything. And in the game, h6 was played. Excellent move by Pragg. Just a very quiet move and fixing any back rank problems, since if there's any checkmate threats, the king can always go to h7 to run away. In the game, knight e1 was played, maneuvering the knight, g6, and b3. You see that both sides, they're just pushing those pawns, quiet moves, and maneuvering their pieces, because right now there's nothing that is going on that is not causing a lot of actions yet. In the game, bishop g4 was played, which is actually a slight inaccuracy, because why are you offering like these kinds of exchanges for black? You can actually just go knight b4 here to attack the queen, and after queen b2, let's say, then go bishop g4. At least there's no bishop takes c6 ideas anymore. But if you go bishop g4 immediately as played in the game, and there's actually Magnus didn't play the best response. What he should have done is actually to take on c6, and after, so if you take with rook takes c6, there's f3 to kick the bishop back, and if you take b takes c6, there's also like f3, but white can also take on f8 first, and after king f8, then go f3, and the bishop has to go back, but then it's just a useless move with bishop g4. That is why you should go knight b4 first, and then after queen b2, then bishop g4. Because now if you go f3, at least you can get go back with the bishop, and you see that white's bishop on g2 is being blocked by its own pawn. At least you're kind of luring white to go f3 to blockade its own bishop. Let's continue with the game. Bishop g4 was played immediately, and Magnus didn't find the best response, which is to go bishop c6, but instead play h3. And after bishop e6, of course, you cannot take on e2 because you just fall for the trap. After rook takes f8, king takes f8, there's knight e4. This bishop is just simply trapped. Okay, maybe you can go back to h5, but there's now just knight takes, queen takes, and g4 to trap the bishop. It's a dead bishop if you take on e2, that's for sure. In the game, bishop e6 was played, but this is again not the best option. The best option again is to go knight b4, ignoring preventing any bishop c6 ideas from coming up. And yeah, knight b4 is just the best move. But bishop e6 is also fine, and after queen c1, having some knight e4 ideas here, very tricky actually. In the game, king g7, defending the h6 pawn as well as running away from this back rank. Knight c2 was played, preventing knight b4. Okay, maybe you can still go knight b4, but at least now I'll just trade off your knights. In the game, knight d7 was played. Black's idea is actually now to go f5. Well, this is just one of his idea, but the other idea is actually to get the knight to c5 to attack the pawns on the queen side. So actually, Pragg is doing really well here so far. Rook f8 was played by Magnus, trading off a pair of rooks, very reasonable, and queen takes f8. f4. Now, f4 is actually a kind of aggressive move by Magnus, too aggressive, and just he missed Black's next move. Maybe not missed, but probably he missed, he underestimated that this f4 move can cause to a lot of trouble. What he should have done here is actually just to wait or offer a queen trade here, even to go queen a3. And everything is going to be fine here after queen a3. But f4, then the position will become more complicated. And in the game, knight b4 was played. Excellent found by Pragg. This is the best move. The only move to maintain the advantage. And after knight b4 here, knight takes b4 was played. And after queen takes b4, knight f3 and knight c5. Of course, you cannot take on b3 immediately. I mean, it's not good because after knight e5, there's now, for example, queen c3. And let's say knight d7 here, trading everything off. Bishop takes d7. And of course, you really don't want to take on c3 because allowing black to have this c3 pass pawn is not a good idea. Rook c1 attacking it, but there's just rook b3 to defend it. And I mean, the position is kind of drawish, but at least black is having some sort of opportunities to win. Let's quickly take a look at what happened in this rest of the game. Knight f3, knight c5, very logical, and queen a3, offering a queen trade. Already at this point of the game, black is actually close to +1, actually, the advantage. Queen takes, rook takes, and e takes f4. G takes f4, because if you take on d4, there's just f takes g3, you'll be down a full pawn. So of course you take on f4 first, and after knight b3, black is just simply up a healthy pawn. King f2, king f6, h4, c6, rook a8, rook a6, offering a rook trade. Now here rook b8 was played, the best move, and rook a2. King e1. Now this is actually a mistake, and the best move here for Pragg is actually to go. I'm not going to say what this move is, but I want you guys to pause and think. What is black's best move here to get the advantage close to plus 1.5 for black? Now here, you can actually just go king f5, get the king up the board, this f4 pawn is just dead. And if you take on b7, but there's just something like knight c5 first to run away. And after, for example, rook c7, there's king f4. If you take on c6, well, unfortunately, there's now king e3, and black is threatening to make like mate white's king, everything is just like a disastrous. But here after king e1, rook a7 was played by Pragg, missing the opportunity to go king f5. But the only move is actually if you go king f5 here, the engine even says that it is like plus 2.3 for black. But however, it's like not an easy move to see when you don't have enough time, and your rook e7 was played instead. And after king f2 going back, rook a2, and Magnus here, I think he saw what will happen after king e1 because there's king f5, and he quickly, like instead of playing king e1, he played bishop f1. And after rook a7, bishop g2, rook a2 here, Magnus here called the arbiter and claimed it's a draw through full repetition, with Pragg even not noticing. I've saw a short video about this, and like Magnus just called the arbiter and to claim the draw, and Pragg was kind of like in surprise. Maybe he didn't even notice. I'm sure that he definitely knows that he is better, but he doesn't know how to like increase the advantage. And here you can just figure everything out by looking at both sides' time use, and you can see that Pragg only has 22 seconds left on the clock. It's only plus 10 seconds each move, so maybe it's not enough, and like agreeing to a draw is not bad. And you're also like making a draw against Magnus Carlsen, so you cannot you cannot complain anything, right? Alright, so I hope you guys, and actually this game was played really accurately by both sides. Pragg played like even more accurate than Magnus. Magnus had an accuracy here of 92.9 and Pragg had an accuracy of 95.3. But anyways, it was a really nice game featuring two of the strongest players in the world. And I hope you guys learned something from this game as well as this video. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe. I'll see you in the next video. Bye!